We got a really special episode today. We have Rick Rosenfield, the co-founder of California Pizza Kitchen, the birthplace of the barbecue chicken pizza and home to many of my early childhood memories. Rick was previously a federal prosecutor and defense attorney and left that lucrative career at age 40 to start CPK with his law partner Larry Flax. Today we're going to dive into the nitty-gritty of how and why that all happened. Rick, thanks so much for joining the Opening Soon podcast.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks.
Um, okay, so Rick, bring me back to 1985 when you are 40. You have a great career as a lawyer. I'm sure you're making great money. Walk us through the decision of, why you would leave all that to start a pizza restaurant.
Well, Larry and I we were partners for 13 years after leaving the federal government as prosecutors. We both loved food. We loved restaurants. We always had one idea after another. We always thought that someday we'd end up in the restaurant business, and we got close a couple of times, but each time we got interrupted by a client who would give us a big retainer, and we'd be back in the practice of law. But in '84, I had gone back to Chicago, which was my hometown.
Okay.
My brother showed me this pasta cafeteria. So at that time, I was running marathons, and carbohydrate loading was the thing. So it was a great concept. Very, very cute, very clean, simple. You walk in the front was a case of fresh pasta. You'd walk down the line, choose a salad perhaps, and very, very simple. But we saw that there was this god-awful looking piece. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, not there. So anyway, I came back and told my partner about it. We said, that's a really interesting concept. So we had a long trial in San Francisco, and we came back still with this concept in my mind. And a friend told us that there was a place like it in Glendale Galleria, so we drove out, and that's where we saw the same concept basically, with this god-awful looking pizza under heat lamps swirling around. But we saw some people were taking a slice of pizza. We said, okay, let's put pizza in the pasta concept. So that way, on our way back to our office in Beverly Hills, we started saying, wait a minute, how about this new type of pizza, this California-style pizza? And by the time we got back to our law office, we had this concept of this new emerging California-style pizza. Forget the cafeteria. We're going to put a wood-burning oven in the center of the restaurant and build a counter around it. And we had the concept, no name, no menu, no barbecue chicken pizza. But we had this concept at that point. And the long answer was, we were frustrated with the practice of law and we wanted to get out. And we felt naively that we could do it in the restaurant business.
I see. So tell me why the pasta restaurant was unique at that time. It's because they were putting the ingredients at the forefront, or they're showcasing it differently, or
Yeah, it was a case where you had all your different shapes, and you just had a sign above that said marinara, with the prize, Alfredo with the prize. Just very simple. Today, it would be similar as going through a do-your-own pizza concept or a Chipotle.
Okay.
It's just this very early, before any of those, right?
Yeah.
It was basically a do-it-yourself concept, right? And so it was simple, and the simplicity of it seemed good.
I see.
But that didn't last. It didn't make it a day when we really got to thinking about it.
Okay. Okay. Well, so you're frustrated with the law practice or the field of law, but I'm sure you must be making good money. Did you have a wife and kids at the time too? Like, isn't that pretty daunting to leave that to do something like CPK?
It was really daunting, right? My daughter was 3 years old, two at the time we were doing
Thinking
this.
about it?
But there was a mentor that we had, which we tell the story in the book.
Okay.
Burton Goldberg, and Burton owned the Mutiny in Coconut Grove. It was a major nightclub, and in Miami. He's a founder of Coconut Grove, which is a very hot area today. And
Yeah.
in my criminal defense of a union official, I was going to Miami and became friends with Burton. And then Larry and I were creating menu items for this very successful club. So frankly, as I say, it was one time. So what pushed it over the top
Uh-huh.
was that trial in San Francisco, and Burton had sold the hotel, and he would go to France and rent a villa, and he invited my wife and I for a month to come and stay in Saint Tropez. We've gone before for a week or two,
Yeah.
right? And I said, I can't, Burton, I'm going to trial. And he said, you chicken shit lawyers, are you going to stay and practice law your whole life? Or are you going to do what you want to do?
Wow.
And that, so we had him prodding us into this.
Huh.
While this concept was developing at that time, he was there. We had become very close friends, very successful restaurateur in his own right, pushing us and prodding us and challenging us
Hmm.
to go do this. I realized if Burton hadn't been in our life, and I do mention that I do tell this story in the memoir, if
Yeah.
Burton hadn't been in our life, it would never have coalesced. It wouldn't have happened. The timing wouldn't
Wow.
have been there.
So this is one of your clients who was a successful restaurateur, club owner, and he was basically also a mentor to you and prodded you to kick off your entrepreneurial journey.
Well, he wasn't really the client. The client was a union official that it was an organized crime case that I was defending in Miami and traveling back and forth. He was the owner of the hotel who knew my client, and I became very good friends with Burton.
Oh, he knew your client. I see.
Yeah.
Got it. Um, wow. Okay. I mean that's pretty exciting as well. Um, so you present this idea of what you want to do for CPK, and he's like, "Hey, you guys need to start this, or I'm gonna back it, or what
Well,
actually takes it over the edge."
that's a great question. It became CPK, right? But at this point, it was a concept, no name, right? But it was the idea of doing, at that time, that first day, we thought of it as Spago for the masses. No,
Mm,
California Pizza was credited correctly to Alice Waters in Chez Panisse in Berkeley. The idea of putting fresh ingredients, and there is some dispute in pizza history. Was it Alice Waters or was it Jeremiah Tower, who was the chef at Chez Panisse, that
yeah.
came up with the idea? He says he did. I don't know. I can't say. I can't
I
settle that.
I went to Berkeley for undergrad, so I've tried Japanese a couple times.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Yeah, great.
So she's credited correctly the mother of California cuisine, and so to me, I credit her, and the world does, with
Yeah.
this idea of getting away from tomato sauce and goat cheese and fresh toppings. Then Puck hired the chef Ed Ledoux from San Francisco. He was at Prego, and brought him down for the opening of Spago. And so Spago was famous for its duck sausage pizza and the smoked salmon pizza, which was dubbed the Jewish pizza.
Mm,
So, by coincidence, at that time, Ed Ledoux was looking for a job. He had left Spago, looking around. So, but before we had the name or barbecue chicken, we had this concept, and we were going to be. And Spago was a celebrity play. You couldn't get in if you didn't know somebody. It took weeks to get a reservation, or you had to slip some money to the maitre d', who I understand became very wealthy and retired. I'm teasing, but that was sort of a rumor. But so we said, let's bring Spago for the masses. But so we're Burton. Yes, Burton said, I'll invest. Okay, and for me, he said, and listen, if you fail, I'll save you. Right?
he said that to you?
He said that, but
Oh
that
wow.
was, that only goes so far. He's not. I love Burton. I love that he's passed away a long time ago, but he wasn't my father, right? So,
Yeah.
in in the end, it was up to me, right?
Sure.
Me and Larry,
Yeah.
right? And Larry had a different issue, which we had tried the business before, and his father lost a little money on it, so Larry couldn't go to his father, so that put a challenge on Larry, right? Uh,
Okay.
but I made up my mind And I was convinced, and then Burton kept pushing Larry because I was ready to sign. So we found the lease in Beverly Hills, but realized still we have no, because I know you're really into entrepreneurs that are starting businesses like that. We had no menu, we had no name, we had no barbecue. I keep saying we had no barbecue chicken pizza. We had this concept of California style pizza, and there was a Beverly Hills location about 6 blocks from my house, a
Yeah.
little 1,850 square foot place in a what was called a restaurant graveyard, South Beverly Drive. Now it's Restaurant Row, and they tell us we're lucky we found such a good location. Okay, but at that moment, it was a restaurant graveyard, and this site, 4 restaurants had failed. But I felt I knew the neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah. 'Cause
Yeah,
you live close by.
yeah,
Um,
I knew the neighborhood.
do you remember how much the rent was, or how much it would estimate how much it would cost to open up the restaurant?
Well, I don't remember exactly the rent, but I know that we signed the lease, personal guarantees, still didn't have a chef, no manager, nothing, no name, right? We signed the lease, we were on our way, and we borrowed from the bank $250,000 based on our cash flow expectations from our law practice. Banker didn't want to do it, but he did it. So we thought that would do it. We thought, okay, great. And so we brought
Wait,
it.
but did they not know that you're leaving the law practice to start the restaurant?
Well, we intended to sort of keep the law practice going a little bit. But,
Ah,
okay, but what we didn't realize was once we announced we got in the restaurant business, we never got another client. I call it, we took our foot off of first base before we knew we could steal second. And the reason is that our business was basically referrals from other attorneys who didn't go into federal court. At that day, in those days, it's different today. In those days, the federal prosecutors, when they went into defense, were the ones who ended up in federal court. And state practitioners didn't want to go into two different rules, tough judges, so they
okay.
would refer it. But for us going into the restaurant business was similar to a brain surgeon going into the restaurant business. Would you want a brain surgeon that you have to go visit him at his restaurant, right?
Oh
So,
my gosh.
so we literally never got another client.
So your plan was, I'm going to continue my law practice and open this up on the side, but everyone kind of knows I'm opening this up on the side, so you got no more clients. I'm sure that must have been really scary for you getting no clients, but maybe a
Well,
great forcing function.
it wasn't quite that. I mean, we knew we were getting out of the law practice. So this is not here. It wasn't a side business. So I literally I stopped practicing law, took no cases 6 months before the restaurant opened to
I
focus on
see.
opening the restaurant. The idea was that Larry would keep some of the business going for a while. Okay.
Mm,
And Larry did. He sort of wrapped up the business because the business was wrapping up.
yeah.
But so we thought though, so we brought a contractor in. He said, how much will it cost to build a restaurant? And he said around 250,000. So we
Yeah.
borrowed 250,000. But we didn't know that didn't include kitchen equipment. We didn't know it didn't include, all the other soft costs and the small wares, the computer system,
Yeah.
training, right? Inventory.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, oh, and of course, it ran way over budget right from day
Sure.
one. So now we've got 300, we're looking like, no, this isn't going to be 250, this is going to be 500,000. So we,
Wow.
we go to our lawyer and we set, that of course this is all described in the book, but we go to our lawyer, great lawyer, Bob Kahn, and we form a limited partnership and we make a call to 23 friends, not any criminal law clients, just friends.
Hmm.
And we raised $200,000. I'm sorry, we raised 300 $300,000 in one, excuse me, in one afternoon
Wow.
from
Um,
22 friends. And
so,
Burton was the largest investor, and,
okay.
but they range from 5,000 to 40,000.
So you, in total, would have raised 250,000 from the bank, and then 300,000 from friends and family, so 550,000. How much did you put in of yourself, you and Larry?
It ended up that we ended up spending that 250,000, and then it ran another 50,000 over that. So we put in another 50,000 because we were too embarrassed to go to our investors and ask for any more contributions, right?
Okay.
And it's interesting, right? It's because our question of to our lawyer, Bob Kahn, was, would anybody invest in us? We have no restaurant experience.
Yeah.
And he said, I believe they will, and I will. Right? So
Wow.
these people invested in us because they were friends and they believed in us and they believed in our integrity and they believed that we'd be successful.
And then, just for context, for the audience, $500,000 in 1985 is very different from $500,000 today.
For sure.
That's more than 40 years ago. $500,000 in 1985 is probably the equivalent of maybe $2 million now.
That's probably right. I was going to say 1.5 million or more. I've done a little research sometimes, and it's like 3 times. Right.
Three times. Okay.
Just generally 3 times is what
And
looking at the dollars that we spent, or what our revenues were. Pretty much, if you triple them, I think we get closer to where we're at
yeah. And
today.
Rick, can you give a sense to the audience of, what you're walking away from? How much were you making at the law practice? And tell me about the business plan of how much you were expecting to make at the restaurant.
That's interesting. I think we were at that time. I think we were making 150 or $200,000 a year. In,
Wow.
in,
Back
in
then,
our
that's great money.
Yeah, we were living well. We had we were. I wouldn't describe us as wealthy, but we had good income.
Yeah.
And so here's the problem. Okay, so the problem. Okay, so you're getting right to the next problem. So we do this. Let's say we open the restaurant. Okay, now we have no clients. Where's our income? We
Yeah.
don't have any. Now we don't have any income. We just have expenses. Right? So that's what. So with Bob Kahn, our lawyer, when we set up this limited partnership, we set up our salaries. Now we could draw our salaries. This is interesting. So if I recall correctly, we ended up drawing about $150,000. Well, where was that money coming from? It was coming from our investors. Now, this
Uh-huh.
was now this was all disclosed, right? And so, but now we had. So, and I'm sorry, that was a little later. That wasn't when we weren't drawing when we first started. I don't remember exactly when it happened, but as the law practice drew up and we needed a salary. So
Sure.
basically, as we expanded the friends and family and built restaurants, we were drawing money from that. But
Were you drawing 150,000 each or total between
no,
you and
you know
Larry?
what? I suspect that's probably right. My guess would be that at the beginning when we started drawing, we may have been drawing 75,000 or something in
Got
that
it.
in that when we started drawing.
Okay.
But so the business plan, here's where I think it gets particularly interesting, is our bank asked for a business plan. But we didn't have any business plan. We didn't know any business. I didn't even know any business terms, right? So I sit down at what then was my word processor, because I
Uh-huh.
was the legal writer in our law firm, and I write CPK's business plan. And I say, and realize at the point I'm doing this, now we have a name, California Pizza Kitchen. We still don't have a menu. We still don't have a chef. At that point, there is no barbecue chicken pizza. California style pizza is being defined by goat cheese and duck sausage and rabbits and duck sausage,
Yeah.
etc. And I write that we are going to California Pizza Kitchen will create one of the three most important pizza types in America. So along with New York and along with Chicago, California Pizza Kitchen is going to define, but here's, I think, the greatest chutzpah of all, that was hubris, was I said that in the future, California style pizza will be defined by whatever California style pizza will be defined by whatever California Pizza Kitchen defines it.
Wow.
All before the
Did
barbecue chicken pizza. Thank God the barbecue chicken pizza came along so I could be proven right.
Yeah. Well, Rick, where did you get this gusto? Is this something that you're born with, or well, how did you have even the foresight to even write something so grand?
I guess I guess it's my personality, Larry's personality, a lot of confidence in ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, I was scrapping at that point. I didn't have any real fallback in life. My father, who was a lawyer in Chicago, passed away when I was 26.
Mm.
So I was earning it for myself. I went to the Department of Justice through the honors program. I worked my way. I was writing briefs in the Supreme Court. Got good cases when I got transferred to LA because the U.S. attorney wanted me to come out there. So I had a lot of faith in myself, and Larry too, and a lot of faith. The other part, not to get distracted, this was a partnership.
Yeah.
Larry and I had faith in each other.
Mm.
We often refer to it as synergy,
Yeah.
right? That 1 and 1 = 3. So I'm not sure I would have done it by myself, and I don't think I could have done it by myself. I think that I don't want to get too distracted on the me part here. This was very much Larry and me,
Yeah.
right?
What did your wife say while you were embarking on this adventure
Well,
with a
first,
3-year-old child?
first, my wife Esther, who grew up in her daddy's diner in Birmingham, Alabama, who thought she had married this successful lawyer,
Exactly.
right, and was very happy with our life, thought that this was a really bad idea.
I'm sure.
Okay. However, that was only a breath. She has always supported me, has always believed in me. So that didn't last long at all. And in fact, when we opened the first restaurant, she went in every night and she was the original hostess.
Wow.
And for those who know my wife, it had a lot to do with our success. She's fabulous. She greeted the people. She watched what was going on. She is great at it. She defines hospitality. She's beautiful and gracious, and people loved her. And but still, she had to deal with the front door of people in Beverly Hills. So it was a challenge. But she was all in. It was always all in.
Um, in the beginning, what were you and Larry's roles when the restaurant opened, and to what fanfare did the restaurant open to? How did
So
it do?
Larry Larry was always more hands-on in the restaurant, and I was always more of the business. And
Mm.
that's how we sort of ended up dividing ourselves.
Okay.
So the first thing we saw, we we had amazing tension at first because we had hired Ed Ledoux as our pizza chef.
Yeah.
That's the original
From
Spago.
Spago.
In the book, there's very, I think, interesting stories of how Ed double-crossed us and kept coming back. We couldn't make a deal with him. We finally make a deal with him, and we get the first menu before we open. Okay, we only make a deal with him a couple of weeks before we open. We had
Okay.
another chef, and that didn't be. So here we were behind the 8 ball. We finally come to terms with Ed Ledoux. He hands us the first menu, and what is it? It's Spago-ish pizza. It's rabbit sausage pizza, and it's lamb sausage pizza, radicchio pine nut pizza, grape leaf pizza, but barbecue chicken pizza.
Yeah.
Okay. So bottom line is barbecue chicken pizza is a smash. Nothing else is selling except the two pizzas that Larry and I insisted on for traditional people, which was a mushroom pepperoni and sausage,
Yeah.
and a cheese pizza. So in our roles, what happened was Ledoux lasted a month or so, and he imploded. He was gone. Now we have it ourselves, and we see the tension between the front of the house and the back of the house of the restaurant. And I deal with that, how we had to deal with it from a culture standpoint. This was a real shot for us. It was a shock. right? That I think it was endemic in the industry. The front of the house and the back of the house didn't like each other, right?
But why?
It was cultural. It was cultural that the back of the house was primarily Hispanic and the front of the house was basically Caucasian, and there
Oh,
was natural tensions. They didn't respect each other.
I
So this
see.
is very much part of my book is how we broke that down. We were novices, but we were used common sense. This doesn't work. Okay, everybody's got to get along here. So we developed a culture that later became rock.
Yeah, yeah.
Years
Tell us.
later. But yeah,
Tell.
that was years ago. First thing we did is we didn't know the term culture. Okay, so what we said was, listen, California Pizza Kitchen is color blind, gender blind, race blind,
Mm,
education blind. We don't care. All
mm,
we have to respect each other and we have to get along.
yeah.
And
Because for small business owners and people who have one location or just a couple locations, that you always hear how important culture is. But when you're running something in the early stages, there's so many things going on operationally. Culture might be the last thing you think about. But here, you're saying culture was really important to the success. Why?
that's a great question, and it's not only important, it's the most important thing. I believe. So here we are. Realize, look, the best way to describe it is think of it. Here we are. We're these smart lawyers. We could do all this. We take all this risk. And what
Yeah.
did we have? We had a concept. We didn't have a restaurant business. We had a
Okay.
concept. So
Sure.
all of a sudden, we come in and we have all these tensions. The chef is a disaster. Okay, we end up getting rid of him. We're scared out of our minds. Okay, we take a guy that the chef had brought in, Gary Beauregard. He take great for us to take control of the kitchen. We're frightened out of our mind. But what we realized early, and I can say it now after having done this for 25 years, because I didn't use it in terms of, to define it in terms of culture then is, okay, we only had a concept. In order to be successful, it took people. You have to
Mm,
have a business. You have to empower people, and you have to have people that get along. Okay, we all know how businesses implode because partners don't get along, people don't get along. In us, it's like need to, our success, CPK's success was, of course, it was the barbecue chicken pizza. That got people in the door, right?
yeah.
But the success was we trained people. Okay, if I can talk about for a moment, that culture evolved into what we called rock. Took years to codify it, so to speak.
Sure.
It was R for respect, O for opportunity, C for communication, and K for kindness.
Mm,
And the kindness was the key, right? So what we would say we'd go and we talk to the restaurants with staff, we'd say, respect works both ways.
yeah.
You have to earn respect. You can't demand respect. But the kindness, what we wanted was people that wanted to come to work, and that's the secret of our success. Our success was, of course, we were committed to quality, my God, yes.
Yeah.
But in the end, it was we created a culture where people wanted to come to work and they were committed to our values.
Mm,
And the beauty is, they were real. If you looked at my LinkedIn now, it's so much fun for me. It's new to go on LinkedIn and
yeah.
see all the people that have worked for CPK that are talking about it was the greatest job ever and
Sure.
what fun it was. That's so gratifying to me, as you can imagine.
Yeah. Well, I love the concept of rock, but I think people oftentimes write down principles or codes of maybe like ethics or culture, but how do you actually implement it? Because it's there in writing, but like you get it during orientation, but then you forget about it. How does it actually get implemented?
Another great question because even when I say it, right, its question really is are you talking the talk or do you walk it, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's right, and if you, as rock was real, So we had rock star awards, right? We gave out rock star awards. The staff handed rock star. They chose their own rock stars in each restaurant, right? So we created a culture of friends. So it was real, and the real was, I believe, that Larry and I had a mantra which was, do the right thing. When we had complicated questions come to us, or questions, said, just think about it. Do the right thing, right? And I know that people, there were periods which I describe in the book where our culture failed, right? Okay, and that was the lowest point in my life, because at one point there was a question whether that was credible, and I was again to describe it. It was, while Pepsi owned 2/3 of us at one point, PepsiCo,
Yeah.
and they had cut the quality. We were in a period where they stopped expanding, and I was in Miami speaking to staff, to management, having dinner, and I said, we're really committed to quality, and I saw a woman manager roll her eyes over to looking at another manager, like, does he really believe that? And
Wow.
I went back to the room and I called Larry and I said, boy, are we in trouble,
Okay, I think we're jumping a little bit ahead here because
Sure.
PepsiCo ended up doing an acquisition of yours. But just to go back to that first restaurant, when did you realize this is a concept that was working, and then how did you think about the second and subsequent 20 plus restaurants that you opened?
So we opened on March 27th at 5 p.m. We had a sign in the door about that big, and a panel on the door said that's when we were opening.
Sure.
First person in was the actress Shirley MacLaine at right 5 o'clock, and she ordered a cup of coffee, not pizza. Her agent was upstairs, so she had been waiting for him.
Yeah.
Okay. But a couple of minutes later, people started drifting in, and barbecue chicken pizza was off the charts. So
Just from the get-go.
off the charts. Buzzword in the community. We were packed. It was only a small restaurant, still is, still there, 67 seats. People were waiting out on the street, waiting in line on the street, and from day one. And we said, okay, we've got it. I mean, naively, I might add, we felt day one, and so let's get going. So it just so happened that one of our customers owned the Beverly Center, which became our second location.
I see.
And then, so all of a sudden, and then Esquire named us one of the best new restaurants in 1985. And so we had developers coming after us right from the beginning. So we needed to raise more capital, but first of all, we never intended to, as I said, we went in it expecting to build a national and international brand, as naive as we were, okay, and as egotistical as that sounds, because it is, right? Right.
That's you need a little bit of that.
You gotta call for what it is. Looking back, it makes no. I said I laugh because if I knew now then what I know now, I'm not sure I would have had the guts to do it.
Yeah.
But in pure naivete, we did it, right? But we were expanding immediately. We were a smash hit.
Just from the get-go, because the barbecue chicken pizza.
Right from the opening day.
And you got written up by Esquire, and you essentially went viral in the sense of how it was to go viral back then.
Right.
Just by press.
To the extent you could go viral then, that was the kind of buzz going through the neighborhood. We had one guy have lunch. He would come back. He came back for dinner. Then he picked up his wife at the airport, brought her over, and he had another pizza. Right. So I mean, it was a craze. It was all driven by barbecue chicken pizza.
Wow. What were the challenges then, if any?
Well, again, our challenge then was Ed Ledoux, the chef. Right.
Oh.
He thought the two lawyers shouldn't even be in the restaurant. As far as he was concerned, we were backing him. I don't know where he got that idea because we sure never said it. But he thought we should stay in our law practice and leave the restaurant to him. Okay, and and he just imploded. I mean, he lasted a month. So the day we fired him because he treated a server wrongly, we fired him on the spot when we
Yeah.
learned about it, and so to go back and what you care so much about that, and your audience does, Larry and I and Esther, the day we fired him, the night we fired him, we sat in our law office. We had moved next door. We sat in the floor of my law office and we cried.
Yeah, were you not
We were,
scared that
we were,
you had a restaurant and no chef?
we had a successful restaurant, ostensibly, and no chef, right? And we had but it was Gary Beauregard, this kitchen manager, right, who had come to us from Spago. He actually went to Berkeley himself. He
Oh,
was
great. Go Bears.
and he was doing social work, perfect for the restaurant business. Very very calm, unflappable, and we had engaged with Gary earlier, feeling that Ed would never make it, and Gary was a line cook one day at Spago and a waiter the other times, but
Uh-huh.
he took charge of the kitchen, calmed everybody down, and then we worked with Gary for, I forget, 10 or 12 or 14 years.
Wow.
We never gave him the term chef. He was our food guru so it happens that Larry and I created the menu items. We did it through our whole 25 years. We inspired the menu items, and then we would work with our team to tweak them. We'd say, let's do this. The first thing we did when we got rid of Ladue, let's do a Thai chicken pizza. Right? Let's do an Italian chop salad. Right?
My
Well,
wife's favorite pizza is the tostada pizza.
tostada, right? So that started as a Santa Fe chicken. It evolved over years. That was Esther and my creation, was the
You
Santa
created
Fe
that one?
chicken. Right? It
Nice.
evolved. It evolved into tostada. But
Cool.
here's what happened. So what we saw from the reaction to barbecue chicken pizza and the rejection of the other exotic pizzas was there was no Spago for the masses. There wasn't then, and I doubt there would be now,
Yeah.
right? That people weren't interested in exotic. What they were interested in is something they could envision in their mind and taste.
Yeah.
And so, but just hadn't had on a pizza before. What's the evolution of Thai chicken? Easy. Everybody goes to a Thai restaurant and they buy satay, and when you run out of the chicken, you dip the naan in it, right? So anything that works, we exploit all flavors that would work on a sandwich or bread, work on a pizza in our mind, right? And then
Uh-huh.
and that evolved in the tostada, and that's how we evolved the menu.
I see. Rick, you go from one store in 1985 to 25 stores by 1992. Just, I mean, briefly walk me through that sort of breakneck growth and how you were able to manage that. Did you have to hire a lot of people to help support? How were you able to scale so fast?
That was the easy. If I look back, that was probably the easiest period, compared to later periods. Okay, but I'll try that. But so here we were. Now developers are coming after us. We opened the successful restaurant. Okay, second one is Beverly Center. Third
Okay.
is Topanga Plaza right next to a Nordstrom. And now we get this idea that our future is naturally shopping centers, because we intended from day one, we were family oriented. We wanted a place that all family members could agree on. Now we found the shopping centers, and here we have this natural traffic. So in that sense, we were at that 1985, mall food was hot dog on a stick and orange Julius. Right?
Yeah,
So we literally were the first upscale casual dining to go to shopping centers.
I
Of course,
see.
other people followed us, but now the shopping centers were after us. So we had three, and Lenox Square in Atlanta, which is the premier mall in the southeast,
I
they
grew up
come
in
after.
Atlanta.
You know Lenox?
Yeah.
So they come after us, and they offer us this unbelievable site that's still there, after 1987 in the center court of Wimbledon. I called it, people say, why did you go to Atlanta? I said, because we were offered center court Wimbledon. And here it is, this open, massive restaurant in the center, no walls, and we pipe our yellow smokestacks up straight up the three stores up through the mall atrium.
Yeah.
And we're in Wimbledon. Now we're getting more attention. Oh,
Yeah.
but here, let's do the next one. So, which is, how did we get there? With one restaurant, Larry happened to meet Steve Wynn.
No way. Come
At that
on.
time, so at that time, Steve Wynn owned the Golden Nugget, pre-Mirage, right? So Larry's an Energizer bunny and convinces Steve that we have this great concept, he should come see it, right?
Was Steve was he who he was then, who he is now? And for the context of the audience, Steve Wynn is like one of the
He was the same genius then, okay? But this is before the Mirage, and okay, there's another story when we talk about his other hotel, and fun if we touch on it, which I'll tell you, because it's
okay.
a great story. But Steve came and visited us. He loved the concept.
Yeah.
So he became our biggest investor by the time of Restaurant Two. So Restaurant Two, we go to raise 600,000. Steve invests 250,000.
Wow.
In 1989, Steve opens the Mirage, and he calls us and says, "I'd like to be a franchisee." Now we didn't want to do franchising domestically, only internationally. But when Steve Wynn showed us his plans for the Mirage, and he's going to put us in next to Siegfried and Roy and the Tigers, we said, yes, absolutely, we'll give you a franchise.
Wow.
So that became, I call the billboard that paid us. With the opening of the Mirage, that was the most expensive hotel in the world at the time. We were in the sports book next to the Tigers, and everybody, 30 million people a year would come to Vegas and see CPK at the Mirage. We had enormous lines. And then the shopping center developers had their shopping center convention there, and everybody saw us there. So that spot in the Mirage had a lot to do with it. And if I'll tell you a story on the book, which is cute a couple years later, because I don't want to miss this for you,
Yeah.
is we got a call from Steve's secretary that said, are you guys available in LA tomorrow? We said, yes. He said, Steve wants to see you. He comes in and he says, guys, you guys are creative. I have this property next to the Mirage, and I can't come up with a name for it. So we think, you guys have to help me. So I think about it overnight. Larry thinks about it overnight. Larry calls me in the morning. He's leaving town. He says, I named Steve Hotel. I said, what's that? He said, Treasure Island. I said, oh, that's it. So I called Steve's secretary, and I said, Larry's named the hotel. Where's Steve? And she says, he's on the plane on the way to Australia. So I get a call 5 minutes later from the plane. Ricky, what's up? I said, well, Steve, Larry named your hotel. He said, what's that? I said, Treasure Island. He goes, that's it. Give him a kiss. So
That's how the name came to be?
I'll end the story really fast. So he comes off a couple days later. Steve comes back from Australia. He gets off the plane. He's wearing a pirate outfit, right?
No way.
And he's interviewed by CNN, and he's talking about the Mirage, and he's interviewed by CNN, and they ask, how'd you come up with this idea? And Steve said, I didn't, a friend of mine who's chairman of California Pizza Kitchen did. Fun story.
That's incredible. These are just incredible stories from back then.
It is. These are great. They're all in my memoir, but now you've heard them.
Yeah,
But
that's
they are fun.
so cool. Okay, so it seems like the period of expansion is more of a pull from everyone else wanting you to be there because you were successful.
It,
This
it,
is
it was
new.
so easy.
was-
It was so easy. Then we would go to invite each, so from a money standpoint, from things where people could, we were throwing darts.
Yeah,
It's like we're expanding the friends and family. What's the company worth? It's not making any money, but but the restaurants are successful.
yeah,
Right? So the restaurants are generating cash, but we're burning that cash into building new
New locations.
restaurants.
Yeah.
and infrastructure, but we have wonderful young people who are doing this work with us, right? That are inspired to do it right, to carry it on. It was a wonderful time. We didn't,
That's
when you're asking, it wasn't as difficult because we had great people and everybody loved it, and we were superstars. I mean, I don't mean we, Larry and Rick. I mean, the company was superstars.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
but the fun part from investing, we threw darts. What's this company worth? Those original limited partners, in the first restaurant, when we opened the second one, we made them investors, stockholders in California Pizza Kitchen, Inc. So we grew the corporation,
Yeah.
but we had to come up with a number. What's their value, et cetera. So we threw darts. We said, the company's worth $5 million. Now, when we go out for Beverly Center, we say the company's worth $6 million. When we went out for Topanga, I remember it was $8.5 million. And then it's $15 million, it's $32 million. So we were evaluating, we kept raising the price of the shares. But
Yeah.
realize it's completely private, completely throwing darts. And we're not making money. So why are people investing? They're investing in us, they're investing in believing in it. And that leads to the story of PepsiCo, of course, the
Yeah.
25 restaurants.
Yeah. So tell us briefly about PepsiCo in 1992. I read that they acquired about 60 or so percent of the business for $100 million.
That's your information's correct, right? That along come first of all, we were ready to go public. Right? We
Oh
were
wow.
okay. We had our lawyers. We had created the registration statement, and we get a call from the chairman of Lowry's Restaurants that said, will you guys take a call from a Fortune 100 company? We said, sure, we'll talk to anybody. It was PepsiCo. And at that time, they owned Taco Bell, KFC, and Pizza Hut. They were the largest restaurant chain in the world. And they said, we're really interested in you guys. We've looked at casual dining. We think you are the best out there for your training in particular. And we'd like to buy in, but we don't want to buy you and Larry out. Okay, we want to buy your investors out, and we want to invest in you. And that led to them making a tender offer, buying out, offering to buy out the original investors. Uh, we wouldn't cram it down, meaning we had a right to force them out. We wouldn't do it. We gave the investors the right to take it or not. And bottom line is, yes, when the smoke cleared, PepsiCo owned 2/3 of the company, but because of our great lawyer Bob Kahn, they only have 50% of the vote.
Ah,
But,
smart.
interesting, I think people will find interesting, if you were one of those original 22 investors
Sure.
in CPK, you never made any money for that 7 years while we grew to 25, never got a dividend. Okay, but if you sold to PepsiCo, well, if you didn't sell to PepsiCo, let's say you put $20,000 in the first restaurant.
Sure.
If you did not sell to PepsiCo, you got a $189,000 dividend, and you still had your shares. Okay.
Oh
If you
wow.
did, if you did sell to PepsiCo, you got $424,000 for your $20,000 investment.
Wow.
And
That's a
so
great
what's interesting
20x.
there, right,
It's a great
is
return.
and many of those original investors invested each time that we went out for money.
Hmm.
And some came in later. So even if you were the last investor in like a year before, you made 4 times your money.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this was a great opportunity for us to reward investors, reward ourselves, take some liquidity, take money off the table. But pushing us was, I wanted to settle the issue for investors, that we could make money for them.
Yeah.
So that was very much of course, I was making money on it too, but that wasn't the primary motivation. Primary motivation was, can these guys make money for their investors?
Yeah. You're rewarding your investors for being patient, giving
Right.
them some liquidity. I hear you and Larry each walk away with close to $18 million
I
through
think
that
it was
transaction.
17. I think it was 17 million each, And that was a great story that I tell in my book, how we came to that valuation to come to that number and force that down on PepsiCo that we wouldn't take less. But it's a really cute long story.
How did it feel when you had $17 million in your bank account?
Well, it was 10 million after tax. That, that's what we actually told them. We said, you guys, okay, we're not going to do this unless Larry and I, in addition to rewarding our investors, okay, we want $10 million in cash after tax in the bank. And that's how they came up with the valuation.
That's
Because
how you did it?
they wanted this deal so bad. We said, I said, you guys figure out the math. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Because here's the thing, we were debating, they originally said we were doing about $50 million in sales.
Sure.
We were barely profitable. Their first offer for the value of the company, the total enterprise, was 60 million. Our first offer was 200 million. Okay. We were miles apart. Okay? And ultimately, we weren't moving, and we said, okay, here's the deal. You figure out the number that gets us this result. That came out to closer to our number, came out to $140 million valuation,
Sure.
right?
I see.
And that's exactly how it got done. We said, here's the number we want after tax in the bank. So if it doesn't work out,
Yeah.
we can walk
You're
away
protected.
happy, okay, and we can have security. And that was our demand, and finally they accepted that.
That's
That was
incredible.
fun.
And 10 million in 92 is at the rule of three, or roughly
Yeah,
30 million today.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, that was because a friend of Larry's had told him that you're not really wealthy or successful in this town unless you have $10 million cash in the bank.
Wow.
That's how we came up with that number. A,
Oh
a
my
wealthy
gosh.
guy, quite wealthy guy, Dick Simon, big real estate guy, told Larry that, and
Is
that's
that
what
of
we used.
Simon Properties?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, yeah. We see them a lot. Okay, incredible.
yeah.
Um, were you still motivated after this
Oh,
transaction?
oh, 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 totally motivated. But at that point, that's where we ran into the first problem. They gave us an unlimited check. They literally said it. So our deal, the way they came to that deal, the way they came to the math was, we can justify the $140 million valuation if you
Uh-huh.
guys build 15 restaurants next year. This is the numbers crunchers, right? If you build 15 restaurants next year, 28 restaurants every year thereafter, okay? And they operate and they live it and they achieve the same cash flow and growth that the first 25 do. They're doing this, right? They're crunching this thing.
Yeah, it's
And if
a spreadsheet.
all of those things together, that the company's worth 140 million, and we can make this deal. So our deal was, okay, open 15 the next year and 28 the second. Now we have a problem. Okay, so we did get 15 open, and we did get 28 open,
Uh-huh.
but in the meantime, they put John Martin on our board. John Martin was the president of Taco Bell, or chairman of Taco Bell.
Wow.
And he said, you wimps, why would you build 28 restaurants here? Talking to our senior team.
Uh-huh.
Build 50, build 100. You've got a blank check from PepsiCo. So now we had to imagine the problem of building the pipeline, right? To get 15 open off of 25, to
Yeah.
build 15 the next year, 28 the next year, and 28 or more next year. So now we've got real estate teams. So now Larry and I are not walking and seeing the sites.
Mm.
We saw every site before that.
Yeah.
Now we're relying on other people to pick the sites, okay? And teams of people. And we ultimately sign it, but based on what Pepsi was telling us, put them in green areas, put them in middle income areas, put them everywhere, and then we'll see what works. Well, all of a sudden they go, whoa, hold on, some of these aren't doing well. Well, that's a big surprise, right?
Sure.
Okay, and that led to the most troublesome time. So they pulled the plug at that moment, when we already had opened 15 and 28 being built, and they pulled the plug. Crash.
Wow.
Now, that was the start of the worst period of our CPK lives. Now we're laying off people in that real estate team. Now we're no longer got this momentum. They crashed us, right?
Yeah.
And then they wanted to put their own person in to help and run and cut costs. And Larry and I felt horrible.
Yeah.
We were at our low point. We had failed, right? But what we didn't know was PepsiCo was developing a master plan of its own to get out of the restaurant business.
I see.
That came later when they spun off Yum,
I
right?
see.
Soon thereafter, 1996, right?
Yeah.
This was 1994, and they were planning to get out of the restaurant business.
Yeah. Rick, I know we're running a bit up on time, and I want to quickly go over the timeline from, PepsiCo acquisition to where we are today, and then, for the audience who wants to get more into the weeds, Rick has written a memoir on his entire journey as the co-founder of CPK, which dives into a lot of the nitty-gritty. But 92, PepsiCo buys 2/3 of the business. I think in 97 they ended up selling to a private equity firm. It IPOs, so CPK goes public in 2000. I think you and Larry were brought back in 2003. You ran it to 2011, of which another private equity firm, Golden Gate Capital, buys CPK. And then I think you may not have been involved afterwards. CPK goes bankrupt in 2020 for Chapter 11. Another firm buys it out of bankruptcy, and today we still have 185 locations roughly throughout the world. Is that accurate?
That's an accurate summary.
Okay.
With the note that after we sold, we were never involved.
After you sold in
After 2011,
11, you weren't involved.
We were never involved in the aftermath.
Got it. Rick, what a journey.
Yeah, it has been quite a journey.
One question that I always like to ask is, knowing what you know now and looking back over this 40 plus years of being in CPK and doing business, what would you have changed, if anything?
I don't know that I would have changed. Well, I go back to that. A whole separate issue about whether I would have sold the company if I knew we were not going to be involved. Okay, that's a whole separate question. I deal with that in the book. But in terms of how we grew it, sure, we made mistakes along the way. But the advice that I give is what we were talking about earlier, is understand that your success is about your ability to delegate to people and to have people believe in your vision. That without that, okay, concept means nothing. Of course, you have to have capital, but even more important in a sense than capital, maybe nothing is more important. You can't do it without capital,
sure.
Right? But other than capital is you have to have people that share your vision.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Rick, this has been a lot of fun. If people want to learn more or follow along, how do they do so?
My book's available it's going to be released on July 21st. It's now available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can go to my website, rickrosenfield.com. It's been fun, and it's been a great interview. I appreciate it. You asked some great questions that I think can be very helpful to people.
Yeah, no, I'm sure our audience is gonna really love this.
Well, I deal with all of it in my book and more, right?
Exactly. This will be a great teaser for the book. So, Rick, really appreciate you taking the time today. This has been a lot of fun. I'm in LA right now. I might just go stop by the Beverly Hills location later tonight for a slice, for a pie.
Great. Great. Very nice. Thank you.